Just before 6 o'clock, Colonel Kotoka arrived at the radio station. He shook my hand and said, "Well done, Akwesi." He then went on the air, and in these words he told the nation what had happened. "Fellow citizens of Ghana, I have come to inform you that the military, in cooperation with the Ghana police, have taken over the government of Ghana today. The myth surrounding Nkrumah has been broken. Parliament is dissolved and Kwame Nkrumah is dismissed from office. It's like you living in a moment that is to change the destiny of Ghanaian politics like forever." Here is the question I want to explore in this episode. Here we go. Why do you need to be remembered? Why do you want to be remembered? Now here is another question. How are people going to remember you? Do you have any control over how people will remember you? This is what I want to explore in this episode. Hi, Salam Alaikum. I want to welcome you back to Human Bound Podcast. My name is Lihambal and I am your host. Thank you very much for stopping by. I truly appreciate the time. What I always try to do on this podcast is to ask questions. And these questions, I explore them. So do not expect a clear-cut answer. That would be disrespectful to you and very arrogant of myself. After all, what do you know? So I believe the best approach is to explore questions so you may have some perspective to life. I believe that is quite humbling and noble. So that's what I seek to do. Here is the question I want to explore in this episode. Here we go. Why do you need to be remembered? Why do you want to be remembered? I know this may not be you, but for the many people out there, they just don't want to be forgotten. We don't want to be forgotten. We want to leave a mark. We want to leave a legacy. Wherever we go, we don't want to just be a passing face, a passing shadow. We don't want that. When we go, we want people to say, there used to be a guy. There was a guy. There was a man. Long time ago, there was a man who was here. He did this. And they would always remember you. Now we want that, don't we? So that when we are in a relationship with a person and we leave, we want him to remember us. In fact, we don't like it when people forget about us. Even after a breakup, we hate it when people forget about us. I believe that's why some couples after breakup, they use it as a tool just to antagonize or to just get back at their exes. They are in a hurry to let him know they have forgotten all about him. I know it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. Yes, you try to forget him in few days, but it's too early to forget a person you have been with for a long time. It's too early, and we both know it's too early. We both know it. But you would like to let him feel as though he has been forgotten, that you have moved on, so that he would not feel good. It feels bad, terrible, for you to know that the person you have been in a relationship for a very long time had all of a sudden forgotten about you. I mean, you hear a lot of people say this after a breakup, and in a day or two, they come out with this strong posture that, oh, as for that guy, I had forgotten all about him. I had moved on and I had already replaced him. I mean, who are you kidding? Whom are you kidding? You haven't replaced him. You are just acting it. I think it's a bad idea to try to replace love within a matter of days of breakup. I think it's a terrible idea. Yeah, I think it's a terrible idea. You see, I believe it takes time to heal. And it would be dangerous on the part of a person who would accept your love when you had just left a good relationship. It's dangerous because you are not thinking clearly. I would not accept that love if I know it. And I think if we take our time to heal, then we would know how to transition from one place to the other. The point I'm trying to make is, when we let people understand that they have been forgotten, there is some kind of element of vengeance or of trying to get at people. Yeah. It's like you trying to let people know that they don't have that importance in your life, that they are just nothing, that you could just cast them out just like that you can just move on just like that, so that they don't have any sense of feeling of importance in your life. I think that's why people try to send that message across, that you are not that important to me, that I can move on just like that, and you are just a passing shadow in my life, and you don't have any importance in my life. I don't think it's a good idea. If a person is important, he had left that mark in you, and it takes time sometimes to wither away. In any case, what I'm trying to say is, we hate to be forgotten. We hate it. We don't want to be forgotten. That is why we do everything we can to be remembered. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but this is what I want to explore in this episode. Why do you want to be remembered? Even when you are not there to take the credit, even when you are gone, sometimes when we live all our lives and go, we still want people to remember us. We don't want to be forgotten. We want to leave a mark. Why is that? Is it even necessary? Is it important? Now here is another question. How are people going to remember you? Do you have any control over how people will remember you? Do you have that control over how people remember you? Will they remember you favorably or not? Is it within your control? Now, to venture into this question, I want to begin by reading to you from a book. Now, this is a book that is written by a soldier. Now, this happened in Ghanaian history, Ghanaian political history, and it was a major event that changed the destiny of Ghanaian politics like forever. And we're still living in the shadow of that single incident. And I want to read to you from a book written by this soldier. Now, here we go. It reads, "We arrived at Flagstaff House at 0500 hours, 24th February 1966. My command rover was at the head of the convoy. We were all driving to our objectives: Radio Ghana, Flagstaff House, and Osu Castle, and my subunit commanders were going to break away from the convoy systematically along their respective routes. Our leading companies, the radio station company and the Flagstaff House one, came under heavy machine gun fire from the entrance of the Flagstaff House. A Russian-made armored car had perched itself there and was firing long bursts. 3 of our troop-carrying vehicles were set on fire, and the signal vehicle was completely destroyed, though the driver escaped. We suffered our first casualties there. For Colonel Zanerigu, having escaped through his kitchen window, had made his way to Flagstaff House and had alerted his men. We continued the advance to the radio station. Out of the 124 men detailed for the capture of the radio station, only 8 of us were able to get to the studios at the appointed time. The main body were held up near Flagstaff House, as the route to the station lies in front of the house, and without previous reconnaissance, the company commander was rather slow in getting into position. However, we captured the transmitters without much incident, and at 0525 hours, we were in full control of the studios. I went on the radio and asked the now awakened Ghanaians to stay by their radios for an important announcement at 6 a.m. and told them there would not be the usual news. Just before 6 o'clock, Colonel Kotoka arrived at the radio station. He shook my hand and said, "Well done, Akwesi." He then went on the air, and in these words he told the nation what had happened. "Fellow citizens of Ghana, I have come to inform you that the military, in cooperation with the Ghana police, have taken over the government of Ghana today. The myth surrounding Nkrumah has been broken. Parliament is dissolved and Kwame Nkrumah is dismissed from office. All ministers are also dismissed. The Convention People's Party is disbanded with effect from now. It will be illegal for any person to belong to it. We appeal to you to be calm and cooperative. All persons in detention will be released in due course. Please stay by your radios and await further details. Thus, for the first time, we told Ghanaians and the whole world what we had done. This, in brief, heralded our new era. What you have just listened is from a book. Actually, it's an account written in a book by Colonel A.A. Afrifa. The book is entitled The Ghana Coup, 24th February 1966. It's like you living in a moment that is to change the destiny of Ghanaian politics like forever. It was quite an interesting moment. In fact, those years were interesting years, even in the global history. Very interesting. It was an exciting moment for Ghana, for Africa, and for the world in general. Around 1960s, so much was happening. And when this happened, it sent shockwaves across the country. Now I want you to picture this, right? Imagine you went to bed at night and you expect to wake up in the morning to watch your favorite political TV show, Good Morning Ghana, some breakfast show, and you just expect to wake up to the normal routine of your day. And all of a sudden you woke up in the morning and what you heard was the voice of a soldier telling you that the government has been overthrown and that your president is no more your president, that your minister was no more your minister, that your MP is no more your MP, and that your party is illegal and you would be a criminal to associate yourself with that party. Now that would be an interesting time, wouldn't it? And so it was. Very interesting. And the waves went across the country and people were excited. Now this excitement pushed people to do something, and this is what I want to focus on. I don't want to go into the politics. What I want to go is the action, the aftermath of what happened after the overthrow of the Kwame Nkrumah government. Now this is what happened. People went across the nation, and sometimes the officials, to bring down all statues, all monuments that was carved and erected in the image of Kwame Nkrumah. It had to be brought down. It was demolished. I want you to watch this, right? Just watch this clip. And if you are on YouTube, you would get to watch it. If you are listening to me on any platform, listen to the voice, and then I will take it from there. Here we go.
Thursday, February the 24th, 1966. The day when a handful of courageous Ghanaians led a coup d'etat, which resulted in the overthrow of Nkrumah's dictatorship. The events of the days that followed are now part of history. Our country is once more on a path of democratic liberty. Nkrumah idolized himself to the extent of having statues, plaques, and various reproductions of his effigy placed in every corner of our land. Now at last, the myth is broken. The megalomaniac who thought he was God is no more. And, to the delight of every citizen, his imagery has been hastily erased. Outside Parliament House, home of Ghanaian democracy, every trace of the dictator's statue is removed. The deserted institute at Winneba, once the base for distributing foreign ideology, is now closed, and the work of erasing unpleasant memories proves to be a labor of love to the troops who perform it. And now for one last look at the Nkrumah image. He admired this one because it placed his effigy higher than ever before. It was almost as though fate were taking a hand in its construction, setting him up, as it were, for the biggest and most permanent fall of his life.
Right. It's like going back to history. It's like you looking and feeling exactly what happened at that moment. very interesting thing. All these things were demolished. Now the question is, why? Yes, the government is gone. The man is gone. He is no more there. His effect is not there anymore. He doesn't call the shot anymore. You are. Why do you go around putting down these statues? Now, this only brings me to what I really want to focus on. The monuments, the things that we leave behind. Because Kwame Nkrumah, he erected all these things to kind of say, hey, I was here when I was alive, and I did this, and I was the person who contributed to this country. So let me build something out of my image, erect it and leave it there, so that even one day when I am not there, people would look at this and they would say, there was a man named Kwame Nkrumah who was here and he did this and he did that. But then when people took away that, when people overthrew his government, now they don't favor him in that light anymore. They don't look at him in that sense. So that narrative of that of immortalizing myself had to go. Let's bring him down. Let's put all those images down, because that's not how we remember him anymore. There used to be a time where we remembered him favorably. There used to be a time where we cheered him, where we applauded him. The applause were loud, and the voices of support were so loud, and the popularity was everywhere. So we remembered him at that time. But now, because of this incident, all of a sudden the narrative has changed. And the current that moved at that moment was one that is not favorable to that image. So we can't remember you in that image you want us to remember you. Let's put you down. I remember recently when there was election in Ghana, 2024 election, MPP lost the election, and the previous president, ex-president Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, people had this narrative about him that he was. Now, you see, he became very unpopular in the eyes of the citizens, at least majority of them, given the outcome of the election. What happened? There was an image of him carved, a statue that was erected in his image. And when he lost the election, because the narrative has now changed and many people don't find him popular, they went and they put that down. Yes. So when you have a monument or an image telling people like, hey, I was here, I did this, I was a good guy. When the narrative changes, people would do everything they can to put you down. Now, if you take this to the global level, right, the wartime minister, Winston Churchill, he actually witnessed two big wars, two world wars in his lifetime, the First World War and the Second World War. And he played key roles in both wars. The First World War, he wasn't the prime minister, but he was at a very, very important position. I believe it was in the Admiralty. So he was calling some shots. He was a very influential person in that war. And in the Second World War, he was the overall boss. He was the minister, taking charge of everything, taking the country to war. Now, when you are at war, you are a hero to a group of people, and to another group of people, you are a villain. So, after the war, there was a statue carved in his image to commemorate and remember him. This was a man who took us through that time of war. And those statues was positioned at places in the United Kingdom. And one found its way in the Oval Office in the United States because there was this relationship. Now, don't forget, the parentage of Winston Churchill is of two countries. His mom from the United States and his dad from the United Kingdom. So he had this link with the United States as well. And given the relationship he had with the United States during the war, they took his image in the Oval Office. Well, recently in the time of the Obama reign, he was taken out of the Oval Office. Now, the British are not happy about that, and answers were to be provided, and there was a lot of. The point is, things have went on, and someone has a different idea about where to keep that, so he's taking it out. And the protest that went on in London to take his statue out of the public, because some people don't find him as a hero. They see him as a villain, a racist, and a lot of that. So people protested and they want him to be taken to the museum. I am not offering an opinion about all these things because I don't know much to give any opinion. What I'm trying to say is, when the narrative change, people would determine how they remember you. That is what I'm trying to say. Now, first, people don't want to be forgotten. That's why when people do things, when people find themselves in a position of influence or in any given situation, what they want to do is to leave some mark, is to leave some image, if you want to say. So this is how things happen when people don't want to be forgotten. I wonder why that is. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and that was years ago. And he was trying to talk me into getting married and bearing children. Ali, why don't you get married and bear children? Because you see, when you die and you don't have any child, you would be forgotten. Basically, that is the argument. You would be forgotten. There would be nothing to... you wouldn't have anything that would remind people of you. Perhaps you should have a child. I don't know. I'm sure you might have had this kind of conversation with someone before, trying to convince you to get married and to bear children for nothing but to be remembered. So that your child would be one thing that when people look at, they would just remember you. If it's not your peers, sometimes your parents, your grandparents, they would want you to have kids so that they would know, yes, my children have some people that would exist and they would outlive us, so that there would be a continuation of us in the world. So people don't want to be forgotten, so bear some children. When you do that, you are not forgotten. You see, in Islamic tradition, there is this saying by the Prophet, peace be upon him, right? He said that when a man dies, when a man passes away, all his actions on the world, all his deed ceases to continue. I mean, it ceases. It doesn't continue, except with three things, right? Now, the first one, he says, some knowledge that is being preserved for the use of humanity. I am doing a podcast, right? And this podcast is going to be stored on the internet. Until the internet ever exists, you would be able to access this. Now, these, I believe, are something of value. It's valuable to me, and I'm trying to put it out there so it may offer some value to anyone who might listen to me. Okay. Now, you may say this is something that is for the use of people. It would outlive me. Anything we put online would outlive us. Isn't it amazing how human beings, we have figured a way out to store things that would outlive us? Thousands of years, insofar as internet exists, these things would always be accessible to people. That would come like so many years, generations after us. Now, whenever people make use of this, they would know that there was a guy who made a podcast called Human Bound Podcast. He is dead. He is gone. You can't even find his traces. He has decomposed completely. You can't find him. But here, there is something he did like 1,000 years ago, and we can still listen to him. Now, people wrote books. Thousands of years, people wrote books. Until date, we read those books, and it's like living in the minds of those people who wrote those books like long time ago. So you see, that's what it is to leave something for the benefit of posterity. The knowledge that would benefit people even after they are dead. So this one would outlive you. And in essence, that doesn't cease when a person dies. Otherwise, it would be, the Prophet says, some kind of a trust, something you have built, like a school like a university, like something that benefits people, like literally, whilst they are alive. They derive direct benefit from it. And because it continues to have effect on the life of people, it doesn't cease, so that you are dead and gone, but people still benefit from what you have built. You have built an institution that feeds people. You have built a school that teaches people. You have built something that feeds people. Even when you go, it still continues. Now, the third one, he says, a son. Now, look at the qualification here. Not just any son. He says, a good son that prays for you. In essence, when a son prays for you, it simply means he remembers you favorably. Yeah, he remembers you favorably. And for him to do that, he would have to be a good son, wouldn't he? He would have to have some love for you in his heart. It means you would have had been a good father before a son would remember you favorably. You would have to be a good father to get that. It's not about getting the son, is it? It's not about bearing children, is it? It's about having that impact on the child. Because if you don't have that, then when you die, your son doesn't even remember you. You are gone. He does not remember you, my friend. Because you have not been that, because you didn't have that effect in his life after all. No, you didn't. Why should he remember you? How often do you remember your dad? What memory of your dad do you have? I mean, that contributes, isn't it? The memories the son has with his dad would contribute ultimately to how that son would remember him. Because at the end of the day, we are all like memories. The body consists of a lot of memories. And it remembers anything, everything that it encounters in life. So these are the three things that the prophet says that would outlive us when we are dead and gone. You see, the problem is you don't get to dictate how people would remember you. I mean, that is out of your control. It's completely out of your control. If you take your mind back to what I just said, the stories I just narrated to you. Some people may be good in their days and they want to leave monuments to be remembered. But when the narrative change, then the way people remember you changes. And here is the interesting thing. Narrative don't remain the same. They change. I think that is the reason why in Islamic tradition, it is forbidden for us to keep the monument and the statues of the Prophet or anything. Because when narratives change, then people would start attacking the physical postures or the physical statues and monuments that we make in the image of these things. I want you to think about that, right? Look, this is what God told us. In Islamic tradition, He told us about three people who were good in their days. Now, it's mentioned Yaghus, Ya'uq, and Nasr. Now, these were good people during their days, holy people. Now, people would go to them for favors. And they used to do a lot to people. They affected the lives of people in their days. But when they died, people didn't want to forget them. Now, these were good people. How would we forget them? Why don't we carve something in their image? So we would always go to that image. And when we look at them, we would remember these people. Now, this is the first generation. The first generation know what it is because it happened right in front of their face. So the narrative is intact. The first generation would always have the narrative correct because it happened during their time. And we are building this monument. This is why, because we want to remember them. But with passing time, narrative change and the truth becomes myth and the myth becomes legend. And when things become legend, the meaning change. And instead of showing respect just to remember these people, they became gods and people began to worship them. You see how it changed? It changed. Now people worship them and they held them in good regard until monotheistic religion come to say this is a bad idea. And the good people now became something religion would have to fight people to stop going to them. Now, this Yaghuth, Ya'uq, Nasra, they did not ask for this. They did not, because they were just good people. But people decide how to remember us sometimes. Based on how we affected their lives, they would remember us the way they feel. Another story. In Kaaba, in the Saudi Arabia, in Mecca, before the coming of the Prophet, right? Okay, there was these two people, and they were called Naila and Asaf. Now, this is an interesting story. Naila and Asaf, they were lovebirds. They loved each other so much. And one time, they wanted to meet and to have this carnal relationship. They wanted to meet and to have some romantic time, quality time. And they did not find any better place more suitable than inside the Kaaba itself. Now, they went in the Kaaba and they did their thing. Now, they went into the Kaaba and they had very good romantic time. Now, the legends say that when they did that, God made them to become stones. Yeah. Look, people, if you do this, this is what's going to happen to you. And that was the message. And when people saw Naila and Asaf, they brought them out of Mecca just for people to see and remember that when you dare cross this line, this is what's going to happen to you. And people would just look at them and they would take lesson, never to repeat what they did. But as I just told you, when time passes, narratives change, and the later generation would decide how to interpret the happenings of the past. It doesn't necessarily have to be the way it was. The people that were present when things were happening, they know what it is. But the later generation would have to depend on so many interpretation. And out of that interpretation, they will bring out their own ideology. And that is how people worship things they shouldn't worship, respect things they shouldn't respect, and more dangerously even, to hate people they shouldn't hate. Now, these were people that were good people. They did some good things, and they were remembered favorably during their days. And people put down things to remember them. But when narratives change, people just decide how to remember, so that you don't get to decide how people remember you. Even your son, you don't get to decide how he would remember you. You don't have that much control. He would have to make that decision. Today, all the people that contributed to the development of the world, I am sure during their days, some of them were considered like villains. But with passing time and with changing narratives, they become heroes in the eyes of some people. And in the same measure, there were people who were heroes, like really heroes. They did some good things. And with passing time and changing narratives, people hated them. Why? Because the narrative had changed from what they fought for to something else. That's why people would hate a hero who fought and gave everything in his life to a cause, and he was being supported and hailed. What is changing would always have effect on how people remember us. Now, here's the question. Is it even worth it? Is it even worth it? Okay, the problem is, right, people would consciously want to prioritize their personal legacy over the overall good of the world or a group of people. I believe that is one of the problems that most organizations and most culture and society is facing. The thing that I have to be credited and I have to be remembered and I alone. So that I don't want to share the credit with anyone. It is only me that I want to be remembered. Even though we are moving this system, we are moving this vehicle of development, I have to be the one. Isn't that what's happening to most of us? Like, I have to be the one. You have just to be in the shadows. You be in the shadows. Let me be the one in the spotlight. And as soon as I see you in the spotlight, I am threatened. I would have to pull you down. It's happening in so many societies. I am afraid this is a major problem. And we see it day in and day out in so many underdeveloped societies. And in underdeveloped society, this would be one major problem. People would not allow you to go ahead. They don't allow anyone to lead. No one has to lead. It's either I lead or nobody leads. It's either I am in the spotlight or no one else. Nobody wants to be in the shadows. Nobody wants to be forgotten. Now, in this huge vehicle of development, everyone wants to be the leader. Now, that is a problem, isn't it? Everyone wants to be the leader. Everyone wants to be the head. Everyone wants to be the spotlight. Nobody wants to be in the shadow. Now, folks, this is the reality I want to share with you, right? No development, no progress has ever been achieved in all human history without the most people, majority of them, incredible people, being forgotten in the shadows. You will be surprised how many people have been forgotten in the shadows. And look, without these people, right, those development would have never been possible. Now, these were people who would never be remembered. You would never even know them. But they understand that shadows is where I belong. Now, they understand that. Now, the selfless sacrifice for a cause would push a person to understand, would let the person understand that it's not about me. It's not about how I'm remembered. After all, I don't get to dictate how people will remember me. But if I do this thing right, I would go away with pride in my heart, so that what people remember or what people say doesn't matter. In the world wars, we hear millions of people dying. Now, many of these people are soldiers who went to battlefield and they defended their homes in the trenches, in the war front. They died. Do we remember them? Many of them no. Because they say when a single person dies, it's a tragedy. But when many people die, it's a statistic. And who do we remember? We remember those who survived. We remember those who called the shots. We remember those who are always in front of the media. That's the people we remember. But without the people in the shadows, those in front of the cameras wouldn't even see the existence. They would not be the people we remember today. So I believe when everyone is trying to leave a mark in the world, never to be forgotten, always to be remembered, that is when people sacrifice the good cause of the world for their selfish legacy. And I think there is some kind of a corrupt legacy in that. And I don't think it would foster any development in any given society when everyone is trying to be the head, when everyone is trying to be under the spotlight and no one wants to be behind and no one wants to do the background work. Now that is a big problem. And that is where the question becomes very, very significant. You want to be remembered? Of course. By whom? Who do you want to remember you? Is it your wife? Is it your son? Who? Who is it? Is it your countrymen? Is it your friends? Now, how do you want them to remember you? How long will they remember you? How long? How well will it affect you when you are gone? Who is the most important person to remember you? I think that's a very good question, isn't it? But if we want to leave a mark in the life of the world, then we wouldn't leave a mark at all. We would live a selfish life, I think. And at the end of the day, look, I'm not trying to be nihilistic, right? I just want to be reasonable. How about let me live life the best way I can, so that when I am gone, I would have this sense of glory in my heart. It doesn't matter how people remember me. What matters is now what I am doing. Am I doing it right? Yes. If I am, then that is great in itself. How people remember you would be entirely upon them. But how I act now would be entirely upon me. So why don't I act now and let the world unfold the way it may, and let people remember me the way they want to remember me? I think that would be something to think about, don't you think? Share your thought with me under the comment section about all these things that I have just said, and thank you very much for staying with me, and I should catch you in the next episode on Human Bound Podcast. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.